This week, I'm sitting here with my ex-girlfriend of 4 years and my roommate / ex-coworker. We are going to be doing an annual review of the podcast. If this is your first episode, probably not the one to start with. But if you already like this podcast, you're going to be charmed, delighted, and enchanted. I'm Christian Borky, and welcome to Busted Business Bureau. Hey everybody, welcome to Busted Business Bureau. This podcast is produced by the Lincoln Lodge. What's going on? I'm with Sarah Whitcomb, who's been on a couple episodes.
Hello.
And my roommate Jordan, who's never once been on an episode.
Hi, I'm Jordan.
I live with both of them, and we're going to be on the podcast just looking back at the podcast. Navel gazing, self-indulgent, discussing what we've done in this 1 year.
Jordan, which one of us gets to be the ex-girlfriend and which one of us gets to be the roommate this time?
I'm going to take on the role of ex-girlfriend today.
But for the record, it was not 4 years. I understand that time moves slowly when you're having fun.
Wait, what do you mean 4 years? We dated for 4 years.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did.
No, we didn't.
How long did we date?
I'm going to pull up a calendar for you after this.
Should we do a
I'm
review
show
of
you.
your relationship?
A highlight reel?
Yeah.
I thought it was 4 years.
No, it wasn't.
Was it shorter?
It wasn't, yes.
Well, I am the ex of X years.
That's so funny.
Well, that's embarrassing.
Aw.
Just kidding, I'm fine.
We've known each other for 4 years.
Oh.
You've been my enemy for 6.
I feel like I've also known you both for 4 years, right?
Longer than that.
Longer than that,
Right?
now? Oh, yeah, it's coming on like 5, 6 years now.
No, that's
5?
not. That's literally a lie. I need to teach you both
Fucking time
I'm
police
sorry.
over
No,
here.
no,
how
no.
to look at a freaking Google Calendar.
Okay, hey, I never look at a Google Calendar. I appreciate your invites, though. Thank you. I always see them like months later, and I'm like, oh, this is so cute. Wait, so then how long have we known each other?
We've known each other for 4 years and a couple months, I think.
Okay, I didn't know months were included in this time
Oh,
frame.
We were dating when we met Jordan, though.
Yeah, you had just started dating.
Yeah, but we didn't break up yesterday.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, ouch. Here's where I want to start today.
Oh, okay.
Since we're reviewing all of the episodes, I want to start with an intro question about food.
Okay.
Because we all know food episodes have been my favorite BBB episodes.
Oh.
You're on one.
Obviously why it's my favorite.
Okay.
Here's the question. If you could only eat one food for a week, would you rather eat A, canned bumblebee tuna, but you couldn't drain it? Or 2, Buffalo Wild Wings Parmesan garlic sauce? Or 3,
It's only the sauce, it's no wings.
only the sauce, no wings? Or 3, ketchup is a vegetable?
Ketchup as a vegetable. Wait, so ketchup as a vegetable, I can have other things, but my only vegetable.
No,
Okay.
ketchup, but it counts as a vegetable.
I'm going to go Buffalo Wild Wing sauce.
Brave for someone who doesn't eat dairy.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat tuna for a week because I also don't eat meat.
I'm eating the tuna. I need protein.
Really? Even
Yeah.
if you can't drain it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay if you don't drain it.
Are you supposed to drain it?
Yeah, it just tastes nasty if you don't. You're eating tuna water.
Yum. Aren't we all eating tuna water all the time? God's creation is the sea.
God's creation is not bumblebee tuna water. Oh, Jesus.
All right, Prissy Pants, what's your answer?
God's creation is the sea.
Honestly, that's hard. Ketchup is a vegetable, probably.
Wow, 3 different...
Yeah.
The 3 genders are all represented.
I gotta
They are the
stick
whole
with-
spectrum.
Stick with veganism, you know?
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That one wasn't actually really hard for me. The second you said the tuna one, I was kind of like, that's probably the one I'll go for. I don't know what the other 2 are. I grew up eating that, like the bumblebee tuna. Isn't that weird?
Ugh, that's my least favorite smell is canned tuna.
Canned tuna.
Disgusting smell. My dad used to make it all the time with mayo.
Yeah.
And like, ugh.
Put it on Ritz crackers.
Oh, ew. Ew. On Ritz crackers and you scoop it up like a vacuum? Oh,
No, we're civil. You use a
baby,
fork.
No.
You use a fork with a Ritz cracker, but the cracker's
Oh.
there. It's supposed to deliver the receptacle to your mouth.
That's some white ass shit.
Yes. And I'm white. No, we like scooped up, the tuna, and then you press it down a little bit.
So it's a little sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
1 whole year of this podcast.
Right.
Okay, so now that we're past the intro question, Christian, you let us know how you want this to go.
Yeah.
I have some questions that I would love to ask you, and I know Jordan does too.
That is perfect. I just wanted to look back because it's been 1 year of podcasting and a bunch of people listen to it, which is crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an episode planned for this week because it's the holidays and I just released 3 of them.
Yeah.
So I was too busy slaying to write an episode, but I wanted Jordan on one before they leave for 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm leaving and I'm not going to tell anyone why.
They're running away.
Yeah, I'm running away from Chicago, but I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll be
They're
back.
running away from us.
So I think it's fun to do.
Sorry.
You know how some TV shows do like a clip show? I would have done that, but I've made so many hours of content, so I can't do that. So I just wanted to look back on it fondly and reminisce, have a good time, crack open this red wine 19 Crimes brand, put on some sunglasses, kick back, relax, and talk about my own podcast.
Good.
Right?
Let's do it.
Here's to it.
Gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was thinking about this episode, and there's a lot that I want to know about your past year of podcasting, and a lot that I want to talk about. The first thing I want to know is Jordan and I have both spent a lot of time watching you research and put together these narratives and prep and write. Out of all the episodes you've done, what was the hardest one to research and why?
Ooh. I gotta say, I worked the hardest on the IO episode for no good reason. It's the longest script. I read the most books for it. It was devastatingly long. Again, it had no excuse being that long. But the one that was, maybe it might be a tie for 2, that were the hardest to research. Usually, like, the body horror ones are pretty rough.
Yeah.
Just because I want to talk about it respectfully, but also it's horrifying, and also I have to, the pictures I look at, and just, like, burn into my brain and then move on with my day and act normal.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's probably a tie between the Risperdal episode and the Agent Orange episode of the Monsanto season. Those are both really bad. And the transvaginal mesh one for Johnson & Johnson. But I didn't do as good of a job on that as I did on the other 2 because it was a season 1 episode.
Yeah.
Was it the research source material that was hard, or was it like then synthesizing that research into something that was your brand, but also interesting and respectful?
It's that, and it's also like science communication. Like, I'm reading science journals that I don't fully understand, and I don't want to misrepresent it, and I don't want to like do bad methodology. So I'm doing my best to like research and do. I usually like looking at meta studies because it's like, all right, well, at least someone figured out after looking at all the other studies what those other studies say. So that's kind of what the science body stuff is usually the hardest, and it's the most interesting to me. I in fact want to start a different podcast that has no research, where ordinary people come on the podcast and like tell body horror stories, like of your ex's eye detaching from his retina detaching while he was just like sitting at a casino.
Yeah, and he was like a study for doctors in that moment too, because he's like one of the youngest people I think ever.
Really?
Not ever, but like it's very rare for someone so young to have this happen.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he almost lost his sight completely in that eye. And then the other one was starting to detach too, but they caught it all in time. So, yeah, it was crazy.
So all that stuff is so interesting to me. And then I keep doing episodes. It's like I'm picking at a wound, but then like it's stuff I don't understand. So it's like this weird balancing act.
Yeah.
But I like doing it every time. So I keep doing it.
Why does academia and like language not make any sense, but it's supposed to be like the source of making sense? You know what I mean?
Whoa.
I've never understood that. Even like in like college, like reading academic journals sucked. Like you never really understood
I think it's because it's supposed to be experts talking to experts when it gets to that level.
Oh.
However, there are a lot where it's like even the experts don't understand what the fuck you're trying to say. Like you have now made it so convoluted that only you are the one that understands it. So there is some balance that you do have to achieve of making it semi-readable, at least to other people in your field. But it does blow that it's not publicly, that like not everything can be synthesized in a digestible way for someone who's a layperson. And that's what I find interesting about doing this podcast, is trying to do that for people.
You do a good job.
Aw.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, you do the work of turning it into that academic language, into something that I can listen to in bed when I'm having a bad day, you know?
Aw.
Yeah, and having a bad day too. Like those 2 episodes, I do remember them. They were pretty horrific, or not 3 episodes. They were pretty horrific, but I still had like enjoyment in listening to it. You know what I mean? Which is insane, especially the Monsanto one. Like, wow. Oh God.
This season that was.
There's definitely this energy to your podcast that is, you have a big dash of absurdism, right? Like there's so many horrors and awful things that you're talking about, and like it could turn so cynical about the world, which it is, but it also takes like this idea that inherently all of this is absurd, that this is even something that happened and that we get to talk about on a podcast, you know, that you can just read about.
Yeah.
I appreciate that energy that you bring to it.
And I feel like the absurdism comes from your guests and stuff too, which I want to know, how do you, because you do a really, really careful job at kind of like deciding who to put on what episode.
Yeah.
Are you taking it from personalities? Are you taking it from just their interest? Is there not really a rhyme or reason? You kind of just look at the person as a whole and decide like, ooh.
For most people, it is, you've told me that you're interested about this thing. Like Christian's from Buffalo, so I did the Buffalo Wild Wings episode. Peter, we have like a shared funny roller coaster experience, so I put them on the Six Flags episode.
Right.
Stuff like that. KP, I just put on any fucking episode.
As you should.
KP might or might not know anything about this. She goes on fucking anything.
Who's the guest that surprised you the most in how they interacted on the podcast?
It might honestly be KP, because I brought her on the first episode just to like talk about IO, something she ostensibly knows nothing about because she's like not in theater and comedy.
Right.
And then she just like blew it out of the water, and I knew I could bring her on any episode. Like she really is just, for me, so fucking funny, which is not to disparage any other guest that's been on the podcast, but it's like, God, KP is just like a clear crowd favorite for me.
He's hilarious.
So fucking funny. It was awesome to have Asia Lachey on the podcast too.
Oh, yeah.
Because she was, I told the story on the podcast, but she had found my podcast through just like random searching, and then was like, I think this episode might be about me. And then it wound up not being about her, but then I made an episode about her.
Good.
And when I was talking to her, so this is to answer your question about how I do my guests, since I don't really know her that well, I was like, do you want me to do a theater episode? And I was thinking about doing Natasha Perry and the Great Comedy of 1812 with her. I was like, because you're in the theater comedy world, do you want me to do a theater episode that has to do with your field, or something completely random that you can just like be a comedian and riff off of? And she was like, I'd rather do a random episode. So that's why we got the Bumblebee Tuna episode. Yeah. So when I think in the future, when I have more guests that aren't just like my random friends, which is something that one of my biggest haters hates about the podcast. We'll talk about that later.
Ew.
Anyways, when it is just more than my random friends, then I think that'll be the MO going forward, is like giving guests an option of like, do you want to be the comedian on the episode, or do you want to be someone who kind of knows a little bit about it, like Danica on the Lockheed Martin episode? Yeah. So that's kind of how it goes. Is right now it's just been me vibing about it.
Great vibes. Great vibes all around.
I've been so I started dating someone, and I'm trying to get her into the podcast. And I was trying to recommend episodes that weren't my own. Obviously, I ended up recommending my own.
Slay.
But
I know that's right.
I feel like we need a curated list of, hey, if you're new and you're trying to get into Busted Business Bureau, what are the 3 that we should hand select and have people listen to really get the vibe, get hooked, so they listen to all the rest? What would those 3 be for both of you?
I've thought about this a lot. And I think one of the episodes that's like more silly and story based, it's kind of a tie between the eBay episode or the Charles Ponzi episode, which I think I did a great job on the Charles Ponzi episode, like focusing on the love story.
Yeah.
So that's like a really fun, silly, lighthearted one. I think I would honestly recommend like episode 5 from the Monsanto season if you wanted a really heavy research one that connected a lot of threads. Or I think I'd also say start with the Lockheed Martin episode, because I think that's like a good mix of both, of me and Danica just sitting there riffing, and it's like about a really important topic, but also it's just like, that one's very girly.
It's for the girly pops.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Charles Ponzi, Lockheed Martin, like middle of the Monsanto season.
Okay.
I would say the ones I wrote, I thought about it a lot in the past 25 minutes, truthfully, to be honest with everyone here. But then I really started thinking about it, and I always came back to the IO theater episode, just because that is one that you do so much research for, and it's really exciting to see a guest, as you said, who is just a friend, doesn't really know as much, and just like watching them like just like her just like kind of go along with it is really fun. The Dare America episode, just because it's so personal, and I love the way that you and Matt just like talk about it. Again, a lot of research. It's super cute. It's one of my favorite episodes. And then Monsanto 4, because it is the most unhinged, I think one of the most unhinged episodes, because you guys are locked in here. And honestly, Bender Blue and Amy Doe say some wild shit.
Which one is 4?
That's the Roundup episode.
Oh. And it's also like the birth of modern
goodness.
Monsanto too. It's just like
where it
a
transitions
great
to, like,
transition.
agriculture.
Yeah, it's
the
a good
Monsanto
episode.
season was hard to get through. Oh my goodness. It was
brutal.
so
It was
good
horrible.
and so brutal. Yeah.
And me, Amy, and Blender all said shit that should get us arrested.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Like, I don't know how we didn't get canceled online for that season.
Well, that's like some of my favorite parts of like a lot of these episodes have those is like you have to like reel in your guests a bit in each of these episodes because you're like, whoa, I'm the podcaster here because they just go off.
I forgot. Another one I'd recommend, which you two haven't listened to yet, but the NFL episode. That's definitely one where if you want to get someone
coming out soon.
Yeah. KP said gun to my head if I had to name a football player, I'd say Shaq.
KP continues to be the funniest person on this podcast.
KP said there might have been like a million trees or something.
Sorry to you. You're second funniest to KP.
No, KP is like the funniest person. This is just the KP episode.
Yeah.
No, yeah. For real.
I also struggle. I wanted to say the BetterHelp episode because Claire, it's so funny to listen to Claire like tell all these random stories.
Drive through daiquiris.
The fact that came up during a BetterHelp episode is so funny. Anyways, it's hard to like whittle it down, but those would be the three that I'd probably recommend.
You threw a BetterHelp.
No, IO Theater, Dare America, Monsanto, number 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And IO is season 1 still, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like, I got to pull a season 1 episode in.
And you were saying earlier, Christian, that you feel like your biggest quality jump was seasons 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of, because I've never done a podcast before, period. So it's already, first of all, bananas to me that, like, a lot of people listen to this one. And it's bananas that, like, people stuck through season 1 to 2. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just, like, clearly a novice podcaster, like, trying her best to do this really intense research. I gotta have Jaxie back on the podcast because I did her so dirty by having her on episode 1 and like it's just me yelling at her for 40 minutes. Like, she did a great job and she was hilarious on it, but she would do so much better now that it's like more now that I've figured it out.
You figured out your narratives. Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
gotten really good.
What are your big 3? Are they just your episodes?
Because that's a sleigh.
Work.
I also really like the Dare episode. I like Bumblebee Tuna, and I like IO.
Oh.
IO is a really good episode.
Yeah.
It's
IO
so
is
Chicago
funny.
too.
Yeah.
Yes, and we all know that I have personal beef with IO. So
Sarah was one of their cyber bullies, bravely. In 2020
I love
when it
to bully. Okay, so even with all of these great episodes, you do have some haters.
I do. Wait, I want to know. Sorry, before we move on to my haters, I want to know what's your least favorite episode?
You want us to say it so bad.
I do.
We both have the same one, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
3, 2, 1. Six Flags.
Yeah, Six Flags.
With
with Peter Bucci.
Peter Bucci. Peter Bucci. Your
Peter
episode
Bucci.
was
That's
the worst.
the episode of Peter Bucci.
Peter Bucci. Peter Bucci, if you
Peter.
forgot who the guest was.
It's so
Peter
funny
Bucci.
because that was the most popular one. Like the BetterHelp one blew up on TikTok recently, so that one like really exploded. But the Six Flags one was the most popular one for a pretty long time.
Yeah, and
people
not because
really,
of Peter Bucci.
No.
people really like the Six Flags episode, so it's so funny. And they're not even being funny, the two of them, by saying like, "Oh, Peter's was the worst episode." They both like said it independently of each other.
Yeah.
That that's their least favorite one.
No, but you and Peter did do a great job.
No, it's a great. I mean, to be fair, I have not finished the episode. That's why it's one of my least favorite.
You abandoned ship. You
I
hated it that much.
No, I just like didn't. Yeah, I didn't get pulled in.
Tell us what you really think.
Yeah, I did. That's it. That's in
Kind of a
America.
stinker.
That's in America.
And what is the Sixth Flag? Did you get? Do you know what the Sixth Flag is yet?
No.
Or did you not get to
It's
it?
the Confederate flag. Like the
Really?
Six Flags are supposed to represent the Six Flags that have governed over Texas. So it's like Mexico, France, United States, and then the Six Flag is the Confederate flag. Well, Jordan learned a new fact. Anyways, I guess I didn't put that early enough in the episode, or you care even less about Six Flags.
I don't know what I was. Maybe I was trying to clean my room. Is that the beginning of the episode? I really truly didn't get far into it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you
I
don't
don't
need
know
to.
why. I just like didn't like the episode. Sorry.
So Jordan is one of your haters. There's
Yeah.
someone who has left a bad review.
Yeah, you're gonna use my phone.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've left my phone at home, by the way, so I have to use Sarah and Jordan's phone all day. I've gotten a lot of like hate comments on TikTok, mostly just people being like, "You're annoying," or I don't get that many. I don't know why I'm saying it. Like I get a flood of them. It's people who have a problem with the information I'm saying, and so they either try to attack me or say like, "Well, in my experience, this thing that you're saying is not true." And it's like, I was not saying it's universally true. I was just trying to shed light on a thing. Jordan, I can't find the photos on your phone. Oh, there we go. I found it.
Here's
anyways.
what I want to do with these, right? How many true haters do you have? 2? 3?
I have one remarkable hater who left comments on like every single one of my social media and then also left a review of the podcast, which was awesome. Like they were really mad. And then
consistency.
One person who gave the podcast a 3-star review, but the 3-star review is really long and kind of devastating. No, not devastating personally. It was just like, I can't believe you gave it 3 stars after all that, because they wrote a lot. Let's start with the person who commented on like a lot of my social media.
Yeah, and get ready. At the end of this, I want us to vote for the king of all haters.
The king of all haters. Okay, cool.
So this is 1 star. The laughing is unbearable. They laugh constantly. So much laughing at such awful people. The people they cover are not funny. It's not funny when deplorable and corrupt people game the system.
Wow.
Wish they would just cover the topic and quit laughing like little kids.
Okay, so they do not understand absurdism.
No, sorry. Brownie points for the kids. Little kids. That was funny.
This shit was hysterical.
They're pretty funny, yeah.
Like, I really, honestly, the most devastating negative review to me personally that I would actually take very seriously is someone saying that the research is bad or like it's, poorly put together or whatever. Like, it's just not true. That's always been a big fear of mine, and I've never, to my knowledge, gotten a review like that.
Good.
So it's a big slag.
Well, I don't know how you could. You do so much research.
I know. That's the main like driving fear.
Yeah.
But this other, I don't even know if I can read the whole thing. So this is the 3-star review. Great topics, poor presentation.
Okay.
This topic is right up my alley, and I found Christian on TikTok, and I loved her videos, so I started listening. I still really like the podcast, so they do still really like it. But I think she'd be better on her own with guests that weren't just random friends of hers. The Lockheed Martin episode was great. Should I be doing this? Because this person probably still listens to the podcast.
Hey, shout out to them.
Yeah.
The Lockheed Martin episode was great, but because it was someone who was actually knowledgeable about the subject, and so the laughs or jokes weren't as forced. And it had more desirable energy of 2 people having an energetic conversation. Usually, though, there's too much annoying laughter. Saying slay or girl boss ironically after someone has done something terrible is not comedy. Making an episode silly or for the girls isn't what I'm here for. Oh, sorry, I skipped this part. I'm listening to the carbon offset episode right now, and it's so bad, which is a KP episode. Making an episode silly or for the girls isn't what I'm here for when I'm listening to a podcast that is explicitly about how corporations are destroying our world. I understand she's trying to market this as a comedy podcast, but it'd be better as a drier comedy, more like the style of her TikTok videos, or if the guests were more knowledgeable and they were actually capable of joking about the topic and not other random things.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a pretty well balanced review.
Yeah,
I feel like they can't be king.
Yeah,
it's not enough hater energy. It's more like
It's kind of feedback from their point of view.
yeah. Sorry, listener, you can't be king of the haters. You're not a hater.
Yeah, I feel bad. I might cut this part out. I feel bad that it's like targeting one person who still likes the podcast.
Because if you're going to cut it out, I'm just going to say they don't know how to be funny. Sorry. And that's the problem. Sorry.
No. This does not count as a hater.
Yeah.
However, the first one counts as a
The
hater.
first one was an ultimate hater. Oh, sorry. I locked myself out of your phone.
King of the haters.
Yeah, the first one is absolutely
King of the haters.
All right, you've been crowned. Because they definitely don't listen to the podcast. They've forgotten.
Yeah.
I got a review. This is a positive review that must have been left by someone who is quite young. Because they said, you should do North Korea next. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're the listener who said you should do North Korea next,
I would like some explanation.
Please let us know what you mean. We would love to know.
All right, so anyways, that first one's King of the Haters, laughing like little kids.
Yeah, that one's really good. I like that one.
Me too.
That was funny.
I have an unrelated question.
Let's hear it.
That I've been dying to know your answer to. So part of what you do when you research, you do a lot of visual research too, right?
Yeah.
You look up these, sometimes women, often men, these evil businessmen.
Who's the hottest?
No.
Oh.
I know who your hottest is.
Yeah.
Who are your top 3 hottest
Whoa.
businessmen?
Ooh. Meow.
Yummy.
Charles Ponzi, number 1.
Yeah.
I assume everyone knew I was going to say that.
You
Yeah.
talked about it for 40 straight
Yes.
minutes on your podcast.
That was just you simping over Charles Ponzi.
And what about it? Okay, point number 2. If you have answers, by the way, feel free to jump in.
That episode was the beginning of your straight era.
Oh, yeah. I'm still in it. I can't get out. Please help me.
Oh, no.
I gotta say, number 2 was the Bumblebee Foods CEO who served, I think, like a year in prison. He has like a really wavy haircut.
Oh.
He's just an interesting looking man.
I see that.
What's his name?
Oh, now I can't remember. On my own podcast, I can't remember his name. But for the There he is.
Chris
Yes.
Lishewski?
Yes, Leshevsky.
Lishewski.
Chris Leshevsky. That guy's a snack.
Wow,
Oh.
look how long that hair is.
This is...
Oh, this is a little
is
uncomfortable,
some-
Christian. I'm
Yum, yum.
uncomfortable.
This is some well taken care of hair. I'll say it. It's a little dry. I think he's washing his hair every day.
Hey,
but-
Chris, you've got gorgeous eyes, babe.
Yeah, right? Just
Yeah.
piercing.
There's actually really piercing eyes. I can
Oh,
see
number
it.
3, Del Close.
Oh,
Um,
that's a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. That's fair.
Because Del Close, he had some pretty striking features. Look at him go. But there's not a lot of girl boss CEOs on here, so the options are a little thin.
Sure.
But do you have any answers to this, or is this just because I see all the pictures?
That's because you see all the pictures. I wanted to know who to go home and Google after this.
Well, you did it immediately. You Googled Chris Leshevsky immediately.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I expected more. I am not horny for him.
I don't think I cover a lot of particularly sexy characters on this podcast, which is, you know what? No hate to all these CEOs.
No, some
No, there's
hate to
some
them.
hate.
Some big hate to them.
Well, they're also like busy, you know, kind of.
Oh, they're busy doing
Taking
what they
advantage.
do.
They're busy being evil.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We kind of like, there's like been ways to kind of sneak it in, but I'm just gonna ask it straight out. How has your view of what you wanted the podcast to be shifted since it's now in its 4th season?
Whoa. I think this has always been a project that I've done because I like doing it. I never did it with the intention of, oh, this episode's really going to hit with a lot of people. That's why I'm going to research this popular thing. That's why I'm not doing fucking FTX right now, because like I know there's more information that's going to come out and I can't do it at its zeitgeist because then I'm going to do something wrong. And even though it's something that a lot of people want to hear, like I can't do that right now. So
Right.
it doesn't bring me joy to do it in a way that would be unsatisfying to me. I think now that it is something that I've been doing a longer time, I want to tell the stories more narratively and have it be less just like shooting facts at someone for 45 minutes.
Okay.
And so I think in that way it has shifted from a facts-based, really, I wanted it to be like a Behind the Bastards knockoff when I started. That's like the style I was imitating. And I said it in the first episode, I'm a dime store Robert Evans. But now that it's shifted into more my style, I want it to be more narrative. And I like something that I like that I do on the podcast is like look up people's LinkedIns and like their personal social media profiles to add a little bit of like color commentary.
Yeah.
Stuff that's publicly accessible and hopefully not creepy, but stuff that makes the story more
Well, it's them
personal.
putting that information out, supposedly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I like that. I think that has been the biggest shift of the way that I present the information and what I want it to be, which is a narrative podcast that is business communication.
Fun.
God bless you.
Sorry.
Gazoon tight.
Thank you.
May the road rise to meet you.
Yeah, I like that about it. It makes it, to me, feel like something that I can't just go look up myself on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And I so often feel like, right, every day I read these articles about these awful, just like atrocities and systemic issues with the way that businesses work.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to have a zoom in on the humans involved in it, right? Like, it's easy to forget that there are humans involved in these stories. The conclusion doesn't just come out as a news article at the end, but there's
Yeah.
like people that this is their day-to-day life as it's unfolding.
Yeah. I think that's something that I've really learned from the podcast is that there is no person like evil CEO twisting his mustache saying now like I'm pushing a button saying this is going to be the worst thing that we do. It's a bunch of people like ants that can't see a bird's eye view making their day-to-day decisions that make things worse for everybody else.
Yeah.
So they don't really realize, or I mean, I'm sure some people realize, but it's hard to see the big picture when you're just like a little drone working there. And everyone views themselves as the drone, even the CEOs. They think like, well, I'm just doing my day-to-day tasks of having meetings. I'm not causing a lot of burden on the world, but they are.
Yeah. This has for sure been a labor of love for you. What has felt though has made you the most nervous, or has been the hardest, or the most insecure? Like, what has felt difficult about this?
Dan brought up that I might get sued at some point. And you know what? I try really hard to, like, that's part of what is also fueling the fear behind the research is like all of this was publicly available and it was presented in such a way where there was no like, you know, this person definitely did this thing that was awful unless it was like proven in a court of law
Yeah.
or reported in like a, you know, well documented. You understand. So that's been a little nerve-wracking of maybe some of the pushback from a business perhaps finding it and responding. However, I am not famous enough for that to have happened yet. Generally, though, the things that I'm nervous about talking about are presenting crimes, especially interpersonal crimes, like in the eBay episode, in such a way that is like making content out of human misery in a distasteful or exploitative way. That's the main thing that I'm always icky about whenever I'm doing this podcast, is like, am I exploiting other people's misery and suffering?
Yeah.
For the sake of like my own
This
followers or
podcast,
Patreon or whatever. It's a problem that I have listening to like true crime podcasts, because mine is technically also a true crime podcast, that I want to be thoughtful about that. And yeah, I don't know. I would love to hear your takes on it.
Yeah, well, I feel. I mean, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts, but I also really don't like I don't like true crime shows. I don't watch them. I don't watch stuff like that because it's just so upsetting to me.
Yeah.
And yours doesn't. And when it does get upsetting, it's always like taken pretty seriously, and that's when it is upsetting. Is like you create space and room. I'm specifically thinking about the second Johnson & Johnson episode with Dan. Like that one was, I don't know why that one, I got like weirdly emotional during it too. And it's just kind of like, oh my gosh. And it was like moments where y'all were just like, this is horrendous. And just kind of had a little pause and just like took that in. And I think you do a good job at balancing that and like allowing space for that. While also just like giving, as you said, you're giving everyone a bit of a like story and a platform to like talk about it. And that in and of itself is a lot better than it just being out there and people exploiting it for their own like benefit. You're not exploiting it for a benefit. You don't really benefit anything from this.
Yeah.
You're just making a podcast. So I don't know. That's how I've kind of like viewed it and why I enjoy it so much and like love listening.
And I think also the way that I sleep at night, at least, is the way that the story was presented was respectful in whatever episode it might be. And it's better that people know this about a company than they don't know. So I try not to pick like a random, like an employee murdered another employee at like Lululemon. I would never make that an episode of the podcast because that's like an interpersonal crime. Really sad for whoever that happened to.
Yeah.
And has nothing to do with Lululemon as a business. You know, like that had nothing to do with, you know, one of them got a pay cut or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, also something else you do, you are always giving radical credibility to where you're getting your information. Always do that. You just kind of embed it into what you're doing, and that makes a world of a difference in everything that you're doing as well. You're like, this is where I got this information. This is why I'm using this information. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very transparent about your research and how that research makes it into the story.
Yes.
Yar.
Yeah. What is a story that as you were researching and as you were pruning and putting your narratives together, right, that you wish you got to tell but just didn't fit into any of the episodes?
I have two. First of all, in the IO episode, I never once mentioned Sharna's fucking dogs. And everyone in Chicago knows about those goddamn dogs. And I hate dogs. Okay, and I never mentioned the dogs because it didn't have to do with the story.
Please tell us about Sharna's dogs.
So these dogs come with her everywhere. And so when she's sitting there watching like your biggest audition that you've ever had in your life, her dogs are running around the fucking theater or like pissing everywhere. And it makes a world of a difference. And it's just terrible. I should have said it because it adds to like the horror of trying to audition to this like relatively out of touch woman vis-a-vis like modern comedy, trying to get the biggest gig of your life on SNL. And she's got her fucking dogs just like in her lap watching you.
If the dogs bark, it's a no. Yeah. Automatic no.
I hate dogs. I can't emphasize that enough on this podcast. I really am a dog hater. And it's not dogs' fault, it's people's fault. They're bad at training those fucking things.
True.
So anyways, that was one of them. I never mentioned Sharna's dogs, which is a devastatingly un-Chicago thing of me to do. And the Monsanto one, it seems, this wasn't like credible enough to put on the podcast, but it seems like between like 2012 and 2013, they contracted Blackwater to do intelligence work for them overseas, which is hilarious. And Blackwater's gonna be a future episode on the podcast, but Blackwater's been like a fun pet interest of mine for years.
Tell us a little bit about Blackwater.
It's a private military security company, or a private military contractor. And they do things like when you need Jeeps over in Iraq, like somebody has to get you those Jeeps, they're one of those companies that do that. It's founded by Betsy DeVos's brother, Eric Prince. And like while Betsy DeVos had some sort of substantial role in the Trump administration, he was still like being contracted, which is a hilarious conflict of interest. So Blackwater just makes the worst mistakes. They're so bad at it. They like have been sued by the U.S. government for misappropriating their own funds, which is devastating when you're part of the Pentagon and they're saying you're using funding wrong. Are you kidding me?
When you're going to court with someone who's part of the Pentagon and you're also part of the Pentagon.
Okay, so we can look forward to a Blackwater episode.
Yes.
At a future date.
Absolutely.
What else can we look forward to?
You can look forward to maybe a celebrity guest, perhaps, on a future episode. I can't say who. I know.
Okay. I mean, there's 2 right here, but yeah.
Yeah, well.
There's 2 more, I guess, on the way. More people.
It's not us.
I'm sorry, it's not you. That might be fun. Coming up, I want to do an episode on RuPaul's Drag Race. 'Cause I think that one's going to bang.
Hilarious.
And there's a couple drag artists in the city who've said yes to being on my podcast, so I don't know which one I want on the podcast. But I also want to do an episode like on how you make money as a drag artist in the city, which will be separate, I think, from the RuPaul's Drag Race one.
Busted business.
Yeah, it busted as hell. Are you kidding me? We had, Sarah made her drag debut recently, and we spent like an hour backstage with the 2 hosts being like, man, it's weird making money doing this.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's very
Oh,
similar
God.
to theater, but somehow even worse. Is that possible?
I don't know what's worse than having to work in theater.
What else can we look forward to? Oh, jeez Louise. Not insulting our friend Jordan, who famously works in theater.
Like, literally just got employed for theater.
I was being goofy.
It's okay, I'm running away.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm running away.
What else can you look forward to? Well, a Disney season. I don't have a Disney season in the works next year.
I love Disney.
Do I get to be a guest on that?
We'll see. It's going to be like the Monsanto season, though. Like, it's going to be a multi-part, like, whole season about Disney.
Are you going
And
to
I
keep the
should-
same guests for the whole season?
I think so, which is why I
okay.
hesitated.
Okay.
We'll see who gets the...
It's fine.
We'll see who makes the cut.
It's fine.
Yeah, so that's my answer to that question.
It's fine.
Oh, boy.
Oh boy.
Sorry, is that copyright? You get sued for this one.
Oh, Sarah started crying.
I'm just thinking about how I might not be in the Disney season, and it's really hard for me to cope with.
Oh my God.
Don't look.
Okay, well, do you guys have more questions for me?
Oh, okay. Here's my last question for you. Right, you've had an awesome first year.
Yeah.
What is your one sentence of advice for anyone who wants to start a podcast?
Crazy.
Ooh, I was just on the phone. It's way more than a sentence. I was just on the phone with my friend Nooper for like an hour and a half. She's starting a podcast called Neurophilia. She's in med school.
Whoa.
Apparently, a lot of med students are like really afraid of like neuro stuff. Please tell me what the word is. Neurology. And so it's like neurophobia. So she's starting a podcast called Neurophilia, where she like talks to different doctors in neurology. That's gonna be really, really fun.
That's gonna bang.
So she said, what should I do on this podcast? And the advice that I give to her and to everybody else who's like written to me or asked me on podcasts is you have to do this for you. It has to pass the own interesting test, which that is how that's the metric by which I write every single episode. Do I find this interesting? Do I find this funny? And I know that I have a lot of comedy training at my back that gives me a better like taste or judgment in that sort of thing. Like generally I'm more attuned to what other people want, and I think it's my own desires, but it's probably the training. However, I think if you're not having fun doing it and you're not having fun making it, it's not going to be good. And everyone's going to be able to tell.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
everyone can tell when you didn't have fun.
Mm.
And nobody wants to listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That goes for so many
I was gonna
things.
say, yeah, that transcends like just the podcast. It's something I admire about you so much because I feel like you really adopted that. I've watched you adopt a lot of that this year, like overall, just in your life. I think that's how the podcast has changed you. It's just like, oh, I enjoy doing this, so I'm gonna fuck off to Philadelphia for like, however long I want to just like go do it for. It's fun. It's cool.
There was a ContraPoints video that for some reason really changed my life. Her Envy video, where she talks about SpongeBob as the Ubermensch. He says yes to himself. He says yes to life. And that's like saying yes to myself and saying yes to life has been just like cycling in my head over and over again. And I think, if you're not saying yes to yourself and you're not saying yes to life, you're going to make a shitty podcast.
And this has been an advertisement for BetterHelp. Just kidding. That's why.
I did that same joke on the NHL episode, and it went over swimmingly.
Good.
I love it.
You might have to cut it then.
This podcast will never be sponsored by BetterHelp.
I'm never going to get sponsors. That's something you can't look forward to in 2023 or beyond. I will never be sponsored, unfortunately. And that's not really a choice. That's circumstance.
Which is why it's so important to support your work in other ways. Can you remind us of those ways in
Oh my
case
God.
someone has somehow gotten to the end of the year and isn't supporting it yet?
Yeah, you can support this podcast at patreon.com/bustedbizbureau. You can also donate to the Lincoln Lodge, which just, all ships. The tide raises all ships. The Lincoln Lodge is a nonprofit comedy theater. You can go to thelincolnlodge.com. You can find, there's a big donate button on the website. That's something that's yum. And that is all the way. You can also just follow me on social media at Busted Biz Bureau, or you can leave comments, rate and review, because then that helps me in the algorithm. Oh, there's also that Vanity Chicago Reader Award that's coming up soon, which I think the voting won't be live if I'm nominated. Fingers crossed. But if I'm nominated, you can vote for me for a Chicago Reader Award.
I nominated you. Or you sent me the link, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at one point, enough submissions got filled out where one of Busted Business Bureau was an autocorrect fill.
No way.
For other people, it was CityCast Chicago and a couple other big podcasts.
Oh.
But because mine is called Busted Business Bureau (BBB), it was at the top of the recommended because in alphabetical order.
That's a schley.
So I think I did get a lot of nominations. I'm hopeful about my chances of being nominated, which
Good.
would just be fucking awesome anyway.
Yeah.
I started this podcast this year. Holy shit, it'd be so cool to be nominated.
Yeah.
We will
Yeah.
find out. The nominations have closed, so I don't
Okay.
know yet, but.
I mean, here's my plug, right? And I think I try to say this every time when you sort of cut me off. Christian puts a lot of hours and a lot of really thoughtful work and labor into the research and the narrative and making all of these stories accessible for all of
Yeah.
us to listen to and understand more about the
Wait,
world around
don't
us.
you have a screenshot of how many freaking words
Oh,
you
yes!
literally have written?
Yeah,
Yes.
season
Y'all.
1 of the podcast. Let's find.
Pull out those facts.
I found those facts. Photos.
Sorry,
Okay.
not to cut you off, Sarah.
No.
So, season 1, 48,080 words, 111 pages. Season 2, 37,000 words, 94 pages. Season 3, we already talked about this in the Monsanto season, but it was 37,171 words, 90 pages. Season 4 so far, so it's got 3 episodes. I didn't add it up. So the total with those 3 season 4 episodes that have already released, which is MLB, NFL, NHL, it's been 137,725 words and 331 pages.
Y'all, that's over a book's worth of content.
Clearly, this is just a hobby for Christian. She doesn't actually do the research.
And this is free content that we're getting. So whether it's reviewing or helping in the algorithm or helping with your money, support work like this. It's really well done. There's a lot of care and love that goes into it.
Yeah.
And I'm a girl podcaster.
Yeah.
You
Well,
are?
And we love you. More importantly
Aw.
than you being a girl podcaster.
Aw.
We
Sorry.
think you're sweet.
And I wouldn't be able to have done any of this because I wouldn't have had my own equipment. I wouldn't have had the distribution platform if it wasn't for Christine at the Lincoln Lodge.
Woo!
So Christine is really the glue that makes this podcast happen. It would not be here without her and her tremendous work in building and rebuilding the studio.
Yes.
And it's just unbelievable what she has done for the podcast. So literally none of this would be happening without Christine. So I'll plug her social medias in the description because I think it's at Christine Ferrara, but I'm not 1,000% sure, so I have to put it in the description. But follow her because she has also a lot of really cool artwork on her social media, and it's really cool. So
Yeah.
I would suggest that you follow her as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Christine rocks.
Which two girl podcasters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god! Every episode kind of passes the Bethel test because I say hi to Christine.
Well, happy first birthday, Busted Business Bureau.
Yay! Happy birthday, Busted Business B.
Busted Business Birthday Bash. Oh, I also want to do another live show in 2023.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Do you know? No, you just don't know when. You just know you want to do it.
I don't know when, and maybe I'll have my mom back. I don't know, and tell her to talk into the microphone this time.
You should just tape it. Just tape it
Tape
down
it to her
here.
hands?
Yeah.
Get her a little headset.
Yeah, so you can look forward to that. That'll definitely be in Chicago. So if you live near the city, you can look forward to that. And that's all you can look forward to for Busted Business Bureau. That's been the first year in review. Thank you all so much for listening. It is really so special to be able to do this. And it's gotten me through a lot of this year, I just look forward to researching. I look forward to reading, even when it's nightmarish. And so doing this podcast is really, really awesome. Thanks to the Lincoln Lodge. Thanks to Christine. Thanks to all of you for listening. I'd probably do it anyway, even if you guys didn't listen, though. Because I was doing it before when nobody was listening, and I'm going to keep doing it. I don't give a shit. I have fun.
Can't wait to see where you're at when you enter your terrible twos.
Ooh, my terrible twos. Maybe I'll just make the whole podcast terrible. Nefarious.
You just read from your Google Doc. You don't even talk to anyone. You have guests on and then you introduce them and they just sit there.
It's a live reading of Wikipedia pages.
Ooh.
Oh, that's what I'll do for 2022. Do absolutely no credible.
2023.
That's what I meant.
Or you could do like a live reading of like the Wikipedia talk pages where people just fight and argue about what information should be in the Wikipedia pages.
We should reenact it.
Oh,
We
I
can
published
get
a
into a
Wikipedia-
fight on this table.
I published a Wikipedia article this year.
Oh my gosh,
Which
wait,
I'd
tell
never
us about
done
it.
before. It was on the oh, actually, I don't think I talked about this on the DARE episode. The Public Disorder Intelligence Department of the LAPD, which is a notable. I don't think this made it in the episode at all. Holy shit. It was this branch that was an offshoot of some other spying thing they had from the 30s that
Right.
was like the express purpose was to infiltrate a lot of mostly leftist organizations and either destroy them from within or, surveil them, do whatever. And it was a canon thing that just didn't have a Wikipedia page. So I wrote it on the Public Disorder Intelligence Department.
And it's been published already? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Wow.
Which I've never written a Wikipedia article, especially from scratch before, on a topic that is very research heavy.
I had to do that for a final, and I just barely started it. And it was so hard and long. So congratulations! Like it's
Thank
hard
you.
to do because you have to do so much linking and research, and everything has to be credible, and other people have to watch it and approve it.
Yep, and they did. There was no edits other than I think a minor grammatical edit, but there were no substantial edits. It
Damn,
was just
Christian.
Raw Dog posted. I know.
Wow.
It felt awesome.
Y'all thought we were about to wrap up this podcast,
No.
and then Christian came in with a whole other
yeah?
story, a whole topic, which is classic Christian porky.
People definitely already stopped listening. They thought there was going to be nothing but exiting the podcast. God, I'm so bad at ending the podcast.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like a classic Midwest goodbye. You just gotta keep
No,
going.
let's Irish goodbye it.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.